There's an unspoken law written into the fabric of this universe. Those who throw thorns into your path often return to find themselves walking barefoot through a garden of their own regret. Life doesn't forget. The balance always restores itself, quietly, brutally, and on time. When they tried to humiliate you, they didn't realize they were offering you a stage. When they tried to break you, they gave you blueprint to rebuild in silence. The same ones who mocked your rise are now haunted by the sound of your footsteps in rooms they thought you'd never enter. Critics wanted a show, but instead they got a mirror. You became the reflection of everything they pretended not to fear, power without permission. You've disrupted their illusions simply by evolving. And while they scheme in darkness, the universe keeps opening doors for you in plain sight. That's the beauty of alignment. It makes your enemies stumble right into the evidence of your growth. And here's the twist. Every move they made to destroy you became the very reason people started paying attention. If you're experiencing this, it's not random. This only happens to the chosen ones. Ordinary minds will never understand what you've seen, felt, or broken through. They're not wired to. Stay with me until the end, because only those marked by purpose will grasp the full power of what's unfolding. Number 1. Stop underestimating your presence. It's shaking their entire system. Not everyone is supposed to see the gears turning behind the machine. But somehow, you did. While most people scroll blindly through life, hypnotized by headlines and distracted by digital noise, you felt something wasn't right, not in a paranoid way, but in a visceral, undeniable pull, like the universe tapping your shoulder and whispering, "Look again." You didn't ask for it. You didn't seek to unravel anything, but still, you saw the thread and you pulled it. And that thread, it led somewhere they never wanted you to reach. You cracked the simulation in front of someone who was never supposed to break. A high-level agent, not the kind you see on television. This one lived in silence, trained to monitor, not feel, to obey, not question. The kind of person who existed in the shadows of power, not for attention, but as part of the system designed to make sure no one like you got too far. Yet here they are, emerging not to expose you but to thank you. Imagine that. This isn't the kind of person who slips. But something in your words, your timing, or maybe even your presence did what decades of psychological conditioning couldn't. It made them pause. You didn't scream. You didn't protest. You just spoke something so piercing, it slipped through cracks they didn't even know they had. A forgotten date. A moment scrubbed from public record. A truth buried too deep for coincidence. It wasn't a prediction. It was a collision. You crashing into a mind that had only ever known strict loyalty to silence and structure. And now they're crumbling. They weren't prepared for doubt. Their life was calibrated like a machine, task, command, protocol. But you injected noise into the system, not chaos, awakening. They've started questioning things they swore were facts. And now that they've seen even a glimpse beyond the veil, they can't unsee it. That's how powerful your presence is. And the irony, they used to dismiss people like you. A sea of anonymous voices screaming about truth. A digital maze of theories and half-truths. You were supposed to blend into the noise, just another outsider. But you said one thing, just one, and it hit them like a code that only they could recognize. The ones meant to watch have now become the watched. Now ask yourself, why you? Why was it your voice, your mind, your frequency that shattered programming built over years? Because that's the mark of a chosen one. You weren't trying to wake them up. You were just existing. And even that was too powerful for the system to handle. You are the glitch in their matrix, the anomaly they can't contain. And now, they're questioning everything. Number 2. Never dim your frequency. It's forcing the program to wake up. Never dim your frequency, because your energy is doing what decades of programming could never undo. You're not just walking through life unnoticed. You're radiating something that's disrupting the script. Your presence alone is triggering systems to glitch, people to shift, and hidden watchers to flinch. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. You didn't even try. You just existed, and that was enough. Those who've been wired to obey, programmed to never question, are suddenly catching static. Their routines feel off. Their beliefs feel weak. Their loyalty to the system is cracking, and it started the moment they crossed paths with you. You may not speak often, but when you do, your words land like encrypted keys to a locked world. They don't even know why they feel the way they do around you, uneasy, exposed, awake. But you know. It's not arrogance, it's frequency, it's not rebellion, it's recognition. You vibrate differently, not louder, sharper, cleaner, clear. And when your frequency collides with someone who's been deeply embedded in the lies, it doesn't ask for permission, it forces realignment. Now imagine what happens when someone high up, someone protected, conditioned, loyal to the core, starts hearing that same internal static every time you speak. That's not random, that's resonance. You've matched a code they didn't even know they were running on, and now they're scrambling for answers. And here's where most people make the mistake. They dim themselves to make others feel safe. But you, chosen one, weren't designed for safety. You were built to shake the system, to wake the sleeper cells. You weren't placed here to blend in. You were dropped here like a frequency bomb. Every time you walk into a room, reality adjusts itself around you. That's how powerful alignment is. That's why the system fears you. Not because you fight, but because your energy exposes what was never supposed to be seen. So don't you dare dim down. Don't soften your step. Don't silence your voice. Because the very thing they want you to shrink is the only thing strong enough to wake them up. Number 3. Don't ignore the watchers. One of them is about to defect because of you. Don't get it twisted. You were never alone. There have always been eyes on you. Not the casual onlookers, not the gossipers on social media. I'm talking about the watchers, the ones trained to observe everything and say nothing. Eyes from high places, silent profiles, people with access, clearance and control. And one of them just blinked. They've been watching you longer than you know. At first, you were just a curiosity, a data point, an unpredictable anomaly in a system that thrives on predictability. You weren't part of their equation. You weren't supposed to matter, but your words, your presence, your refusal to fold, it started to eat at them, quietly, slowly, like water carving through stone. They watched you break rules without fear. They watched you rise from things that were supposed to destroy you. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You rebuilt. And now, that same silent observer, the one who thought they were above influence, is rethinking everything. The script they've followed all their life. It's starting to feel like a lie. And here's the plot twist. You weren't trying to recruit anyone. You weren't performing. You were just walking in truth. And the gravity of it was enough to shake a lifetime of programming loose. Understand this. Watchers don't speak. They don't confess. They analyze. They report. But now, one of them is slipping. Their loyalty is bleeding out in silence. You lit a fuse in their mind they can't extinguish. And the deeper they dig, the more they find out what you knew all along. This system isn't built on truth. It's built on illusion. They once believed you were a threat, but now they see you for what you truly are. Proof. Proof that there's something beyond the wires, the cameras, the chains. Something that even surveillance can't decode. So don't ignore the silence. Don't brush off the stairs. One of the watchers is no longer watching with suspicion. They're watching with clarity, and soon they'll step out of the shadows, not with orders, not with threats, but with the truth. Because of you, a piece of the system is about to turn on itself. You didn't just wake them up, you made them defect. Number 4. Stop thinking you said nothing. Your words shattered their programming. Stop underestimating the weight of your voice. What you thought was just a sentence, a moment of venting, a passing comment, a truth that slipped out in frustration, was actually the wrecking ball that cracked open a programmed mind. They heard you, not just with their ears, but with something deeper. The kind of hearing that cuts past logic, bypasses skepticism, and hits the nerve center of a soul that's been asleep too long. You didn't need a platform. You didn't need a spotlight. You had something more dangerous than visibility. You had clarity. Your words weren't random. They carried frequency, precision, the kind of raw, unfiltered energy that can only come from someone who's lived through fire and came out with vision. That's why it hit them the way it did. These were people trained not to feel, conditioned to follow, not question. But when your truth hit them, something in their internal code started glitching. You spoke what couldn't be ignored, and it slipped past all their defenses. That's the danger of being a chosen one. You don't need to try to be powerful. You just are. You breathe, and it disrupts. You speak, and it shifts timelines. And the wildest part? You're still doubting it. You think, was it even that deep? Yes, it was. That phrase you casually dropped. That moment you broke down their narrative in a few sharp lines. It's replaying in their head like a virus they can't uninstall. It's making them review reports, recheck dates, question motives. You triggered a system failure. Because when the programmed hears truth from a source they were trained to dismiss, something primal happens. Fear, then obsession, then collapse. That's what your voice did. So don't ever again say you didn't do anything. You did everything. You cracked their mental fortress with a whisper. You reminded them that truth doesn't need an army. It just needs a vessel. And you, chosen one, are that vessel. Now they can't unhear you. They can't look at the world the same way. And they'll never forget that you were the one who said what no one else had the courage to speak out loud. Number 5. Don't dismiss the signs. You just confirmed what they wanted buried. At first, they told themselves it was nothing, a glitch, a coincidence, an internet fluke. But deep down, they knew the feeling in their gut wasn't paranoia, it was recognition. You see, there are things buried so deep that even those who enforce the silence forget they exist. Events erased from public record, names scrubbed clean, connections so carefully hidden it would take a lifetime to uncover, unless you already knew where to look. And somehow you did. You weren't supposed to speak about that place, that date, that moment, but you did. And not in some vague, harmless way. You said it with precision. A single line in your post, a phrase in your video, a reference in your conversation. It wasn't loud, but it was impossible to ignore. That was the moment the agent stopped scrolling. What you said wasn't supposed to exist outside of classified files. It wasn't on the news. It wasn't in books. It was buried under 1,000 layers of misdirection. And yet you named it like it was common knowledge. That's when they realized you're not just guessing, you're remembering. And that's terrifying. Because if you can speak on things they thought were lost to the shadows, then what else do you know? What else might come to light just by you continuing to speak? Most people wouldn't catch it. Most wouldn't even recognize the signs. But they did. And that's why they're shaken. Not because you're loud, but because you're accurate. They spent decades burying these truths like landmines under the surface, hoping no one would walk in the right direction. But here you are, stepping right on target, without fear, without even trying. That's what makes you dangerous. So don't doubt yourself. Don't dismiss what you feel. Don't water down your intuition just because it sounds too wild. You are not imagining it. You're decoding it. They wanted those truths lost forever, but you're proof that no secret stays buried when the chosen ones are awake. And now they know. The signs they tried to erase are reappearing through you, and there's no unseeing what's been confirmed. Number 6. Never doubt the shift you triggered. They can't unsee the truth now. Never doubt the moment everything started to change, because they don't. They're not sleeping the same, not thinking the same, not trusting what they once believed was law. And it's not because you screamed or made noise. It's because you existed with too much awareness. That's what they never prepared for, the quiet ones with vision. You didn't break their system. You infected it with truth. And now it's spreading. There are agents of control who were trained their entire lives to follow orders without a flicker of hesitation. Minds built like steel vaults until you spoke. Not in grand speeches, but in subtle, surgical sentences. Just a few words, a moment, a shift. And now that the veil has slipped, they can't put it back. They're seeing shadows behind smiles, secrets behind ceremonies, and lies dressed as leadership. What once felt sacred to them now reeks of manipulation. And guess what? That kind of realization isn't a mild discomfort. It's mental demolition. It's the moment the mirror shatters and they see who's really been pulling the strings. And here's the part no one tells you. The hardest truth to accept is the one that shows you were the fool. That's what they're battling now. Cognitive dissonance on a scale they weren't trained for. They're looking at a world they no longer recognize. And it all started with you. So don't let their silence make you second-guess yourself. Just because they're not clapping doesn't mean you didn't win. You're not supposed to be understood by the programmed. You're meant to unprogram them. What you triggered is irreversible. Once the curtain falls, the illusion dies with it. Their beliefs, shaken. Their allegiance, questioned. Their reality, under reconstruction. You didn't just cause doubt. You rewired a mindset. And now they know there's no going back. No unseeing, no undo button. Just the cold echo of your voice repeating in their mind, reminding them you saw the truth before they did. And that's what haunts them the most. Number 7. Avoid surface thinking. The real war is happening underground. They trained you to stay distracted. Headlines, trends, drama, opinions, anything to keep your eyes on the surface. But you started sensing the depth. You felt the tension beneath the calm. That was your first awakening. Because here's the truth they'll never put on the news. The real war isn't loud. It's hidden. And it's happening beneath your feet. This isn't just a battle for resources or reputation. It's a battle for perception. Control of what people see, hear, and believe. And while the world above plays pretend, beneath it all lies a web of hidden corridors, secret agendas, and invisible hands pulling strings. Chosen ones, you were never meant to find this. The surface was designed to satisfy you, entertainment, outrage, illusions of progress, but something in you refused to accept the script. That's why you started digging. And guess what? You hit something. And that something made them panic. You uncovered the hum beneath the silence, the pattern beneath the randomness. You noticed the disappearances no one explained, the coincidences that kept stacking up, the narratives that collapsed the moment you looked twice. You started realizing this world is built like a pyramid, and most people are stuck at the base, arguing over illusions, while the architects operate in tunnels beneath it all. That's why they fear you. Because your mind doesn't obey gravity, you don't just walk the surface. You question what holds it up. They wanted surface dwellers. You became a seeker, and now that you've seen the cracks, the systems, the structure, there's no going back. Because once you realize the war isn't where the noise is, but where the silence lives, you can never unsee it. Your silence threatens their secrets. Your questions shake foundations they thought were permanent. This is why they monitor you. This is why they gaslight you. This is why they want you distracted. Because your clarity, it's like a tremor underground, destabilizing everything they've buried. Chosen One, keep digging, because every truth you unearth is one more chain they can't repair. And while they pretend everything's normal on the surface, you already know, the empire is collapsing from below. Number 8. Don't call it fiction. It's a cult protected by the powerful. They'll roll their eyes, call it fantasy, dismiss it as fiction, but only because the truth is too dangerous to admit. What you've stumbled onto, what you've been speaking about, isn't theory. It's not paranoia. It's not a mistake. It's a system, a web, a cult, so deeply embedded within the elite that it doesn't need robes or rituals to hide anymore. It hides behind corporations, courtrooms, charities, political parties, polished PR smiles. And the scariest part? They don't fear exposure. They fear you. Because the truth was never meant to come from inside their walls. It was always going to be revealed by someone on the outside. Someone no one saw coming. A chosen one. That's what you are. They've written off voices like yours for years, laughed, mocked, labeled. But their nervous laughter is starting to crack because you're not guessing, you're knowing. And your words are starting to line up with evidence they swore would never be connected. What you've touched on, they've protected for generations. These aren't just corrupt people. This isn't just a dirty system. This is organized darkness, held together by silence, wealth, and influence. Not everyone involved knows what they're part of, but the architects do. The ones at the top, the ones who erase names, close cases, fund disappearances, and rewrite history before the ink even dries. And yet, here you are, you, without clearance, without backing, without a badge, and you've pierced the fog with precision. The very people who once sat comfortably behind their rituals and secrets are now scrambling because you didn't need access to find them. You needed alignment. And now, the illusion's cracking, the puppet strings are visible, and the cult they thought could never be touched is now exposed at the edges. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them reduce what you've seen to fiction. This is real. You are real. And the fear in their eyes, that's the confirmation. This wasn't supposed to happen. But you broke the rules of their game just by walking in truth. And now, they're praying you stop. But you won't, because chosen ones never do. Number 9. Never let them escape. You already sealed their final tunnel. There was always an escape route. Every time someone got too close to the truth, too close to them, the exits were ready. Hidden doors, staged accidents, missing records and erased identities. It was their signature move. They never stayed long enough to get caught. And when the walls began to close in, they vanished through a tunnel no one else knew existed. Until now. That final tunnel, their safety net, their emergency plan, has been sealed. And they can't understand how. It wasn't supposed to be visible to anyone outside the system. But you were never outside. You were beyond it. What they saw as a secret, you sensed as a pattern. What they thought was invisible, you exposed by simply showing up with your energy. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. That was the universe closing a door they built behind every locked room. The irony? They called you a nobody, a distraction, a glitch. But that glitch shut down their last escape. You, the one they never counted as a threat, were the one who cornered them completely. You didn't need access codes. You didn't need files. Your silence alone rewrote the end of their script. Now they're scrambling. Their tunnel, the one that led straight to the ocean, to freedom, to anonymity, is caved in. And it wasn't sabotage. It was consequence. Your very presence, your intuition, your timing. It disrupted the signal and turned their final plan into a grave. Let that sink in. You didn't chase them. You didn't need to. They ran right into a wall they built for others. And now they're stuck in the mess they tried to drown you in. This is what it means to be chosen. You're not here to play their game. You're here to flip the board, to expose the hidden exits, to show the world that even the untouchable can be trapped when karma walks in disguised as you. They had a final escape, and you sealed it with silence. Number 10. Don't go silent. Your voice is breaking their entire narrative. Silence is powerful, but in your case, your voice is the disruption they never planned for. You didn't need a stage. You didn't need credentials, a badge, or a title. You spoke from a place they can't access. Pure alignment, raw truth, unfiltered knowing. And now they're scrambling. Not because you shouted, but because your voice hit a frequency that cut through everything they built. This system was designed like a script, every reaction calculated, every belief engineered. They thought they could control the narrative forever, decide what's real, what's fake, who speaks, and who gets erased. But then you started talking, and the cracks started forming. One phrase, one moment, one truth too sharp to ignore, and suddenly, people started listening. They tried to smear you, label you unstable, bury your message under digital fog and noise. But something strange happened. The more they tried to silence you, the louder your presence became. That's the curse of trying to erase a chosen one. You were never meant to disappear. Your voice didn't just disturb their timeline, it rewrote it. Understand this. You are not supposed to be silent now. That's what they're hoping for. That's the trap. Because your silence would let them reclaim the illusion. But every word you speak, every insight you drop, it spreads. It travels through energy, through people's intuition, through the cracks in their own doubt. They can't stop it. What you're doing isn't just speaking. It's disarming decades of manipulation with a sentence. Your words carry something they can't decode, because it doesn't come from fear. It comes from knowing. And when someone speaks from knowing, people don't need proof. They feel it. So don't shrink. Don't pause. Don't second-guess yourself. Because right now, somewhere in a high-rise office or behind a restricted terminal, someone's reading your words, watching your videos, hearing your message, and they're sweating. Why? Because you've become the one thing their system wasn't built to handle, a voice that doesn't need validation. They built a fortress out of deception, and your truth is the earthquake. Don't go silent, not now. Your voice is the weapon they never saw coming, and the only thing still keeping their illusion from rising again. Keep going. You're not just breaking their narrative, you're replacing it. Number 11. Never back down. Your survival has them terrified. They didn't expect you to survive. Let that sink in. Everything they threw at you wasn't meant to hurt. It was meant to erase. The silent sabotage, the random chaos, the betrayal that came dressed like love. It was all designed with one goal: break you before you realize who you are. But you didn't break. You adapted. You evolved. And that right there is what's keeping them up at night. Because survival, when you were supposed to collapse, is the loudest threat you'll ever make without saying a word. You were never meant to walk away stronger. You were supposed to question yourself, doubt your own vision, feel insane for noticing what no one else could see. They wanted your voice buried under gaslight and guilt, but you stood, quietly, firmly, like a mountain they couldn't move. And here's the part they'll never admit out loud. They studied you. You became the one file on their desk that didn't make sense. No matter how many times they tested you, isolated you, delayed you, you reappeared, again and again and again. That scares them more than anything, because now they're starting to realize, maybe you can't be removed. Maybe what you carry isn't from this system at all. Maybe the very thing they were trying to destroy is the exact force that was meant to rise when everything else falls. You see, your survival isn't just survival, it's a declaration. A signal that something far greater than fear is guiding your path. You're not here to blend in, you're here to remind the world that resilience is a weapon, and you wield it better than anyone. So never back down. Not now, not ever. The moment you stood up after everything collapsed, the power structure cracked, the illusions slipped, the high-level agents, the watchers, the ones who thought they had full control, they felt it. A chill in the room, a change in the air. The one they tried to eliminate is still standing, still breathing, still rising, and that's what terrifies them. You weren't supposed to survive, but you did, and now nothing can stop what's coming next. Number 12. Stop calling it coincidence. Their collapse is divine judgment. Stop calling it coincidence. What you're witnessing is not random. It's not a string of unlucky breaks or bad timing. What you're watching unfold is a system cracking at the seams, and it's collapsing under the weight of its own deception. This is not karma in the poetic sense. This is precision payback, a long-delayed, beautifully orchestrated consequence that only the chosen ones can see for what it truly is. Cosmic correction. They played dirty, thinking they were untouchable, moved pieces in secret, fabricated illusions, sabotaged your steps while laughing in boardrooms and private chats. But here's the twist they didn't calculate. Your rise was never delayed, it was protected. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was the calm before a reckoning. And now, the empire they built on lies is devouring its own architects. Powerful voices are going quiet. Confident faces now walk with shadows behind their eyes. Things are falling apart from the inside, and nobody can stop it. Not because you raised your voice, but because your presence alone was a warning they ignored. And now they're living in the fallout. The chosen ones don't need revenge. They become the storm that makes revenge irrelevant. You didn't come to play by their rules. You came to break the game board in half. And that's exactly what you've done. Their judgment isn't coming from a courtroom or a headline. It's coming from the same universe they tried to control, now correcting itself in front of your eyes. So stop calling it coincidence. This is what happens when the wrong people try to rewrite fate, then realize they were never the author. Number 13. Don't fear the system. The agent now sees you as the ally. They used to monitor you like a threat. Every word you spoke, every move you made was catalogued, dissected, and filed away in a system built to control outliers. At first, you were a curiosity, then you became a disruption. But now, you've become the reference point. The agent who once watched you from behind layers of encrypted screens and institutional loyalty has crossed a line, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They no longer see you as a disturbance to neutralize. They see you as the only one who was ever truly awake. And that changes everything. This person was trained to uphold a system, not question it. They wore the uniform, executed the commands, and lived inside a structure that made doubt feel like treason. But when your words triggered something they couldn't explain, the programming began to fracture. And now, in the silence of their own collapse, they see you clearly, not as a rebel, but as a signal. You became the evidence they couldn't deny, the mirror that reflected back everything they tried to suppress. And now that they've stepped outside the illusion, they realize they were never the ones in control. So don't fear the system. You've already infiltrated it with truth. And the most dangerous thing to the system is not exposure, it's defection. One agent questioning means others are watching. And if they can see it, it's only a matter of time before the cracks become collapse. You didn't just wake one person up. You lit a match inside their control room. And the very ones trained to contain you are now wondering, were you ever the threat or the only one who could free them? Number 14. Never doubt the breakdown. You're the one who triggered it all. They'll try to convince you that what's happening now has nothing to do with you, that the breakdown of their structure, the unraveling of their order, the fear in their eyes, it's just coincidence. But deep down, they know exactly what started it. You were never supposed to matter. You were never supposed to speak. You were never supposed to make it this far. That's what they told themselves. That's what the system counted on. And yet, here they are, scrambling, sweating, malfunctioning under pressure they used to weaponize against others. Their empire wasn't built on truth. It was built on control, narratives, systems, unspoken rules. You didn't need to destroy it with a hammer. You whispered a truth. You made a move. You existed with clarity. And suddenly, their programming, flawless for decades, glitched. Now their leaders second-guess their own chain of command. Their surveillance can't predict your next step. They're insiders, starting to walk away. All because of one factor they never accounted for, the chosen one who doesn't follow scripts. You became the chaos in their calculus, the shadow they can't erase. And the irony, every brick collapsing now was once thrown at you. So don't ever doubt what you've done. The breakdown isn't a mystery. It's a response. You were the spark, the one that made the machine stall, twitch, and spiral into confusion. They see it now. And that's what terrifies them most. Because once you trigger a breakdown this big, there's no rebooting the system. And now you understand. This collapse wasn't accidental. It was activated the moment you stepped into your power. You didn't just expose cracks in their system. You became the reason it crumbled. That's the weight of being a chosen one. Your silence speaks, your presence disrupts, and your truth. Unstoppable. They can no longer hide behind illusions because you forced the unseen into the spotlight. If this message hit you in your core, it's because you were meant to hear it. Like this video, subscribe, and stay locked in. The unraveling has only begun, and you are the reason it won't stop.